Hello, everybody, and welcome to a live edition of TV Ratings Talk on the Wrestlenomics YouTube channel. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live from Buffalo, New York, where today we're going to talk about TV ratings. It is August the 8th, 2021, and AEW Dynamite ratings have just come out, and that's when there's usually the most interest here. So thanks for joining me. There appear to be about 8 of you here watching live as we take a look at the ratings that have just happened for the last week. The number that just came out this afternoon, Dynamite did 1.1 million viewers, nearly 600,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. So that is the 4th consecutive week. I'm scrolling through the Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet that you can get access to through Patreon. 518 on the 14th, 575 on the 21st of July, 582 on the 28th, and this week, the 4th consecutive week of growth, because it was up from 518 from 422 on the 7th, which was a Wednesday, right? It was. So 4 consecutive weeks, all the way up to 593 this week. 1.1 million viewers. That is the 4th consecutive week of 1 million viewers. They were at 800,000. 71 the week before that. NXT was on Sci-Fi, did 520, exactly the same as it did last week. I don't see a ton to read there, but NXT holding on to a lot more viewers than I thought they would with the switch over to Sci-Fi for the 2-week preemption because of the Olympics. And to talk about Raw and Smackdown, Raw at 1.8 million viewers, almost identical, off by about 7,000 viewers from the prior week, up in the key demo, so slightly up in total viewership, and up a little bit more by percent in the key demo. And in fact, if we go over to the analysis tab, it'll tell me the exact percent that it was up for the week. It was up 3% and basically up 0%, a positive less than 1% for Raw. Meanwhile, Smackdown, down 4% total, up 5% key demo. So sort of a similar pattern there between Smackdown and Raw, where the younger viewership held up better than the older viewership did. So there's that. Impact at 100,000 viewers, not doing that well lately, especially in the key demo where they're down to 21,000 viewers this past Thursday. We'll see if they'll do any better tonight on Access TV. But I wanted to cycle through some demos just now to get the basic facts down. I wanted to cycle through some demos and look at, since there seems to be a lot of interest in the comparison between AEW Dynamite and Raw and SmackDown. Since AEW has sort of roundly defeated NXT in the Wednesday Night Wars and NXT has moved to Tuesday, there's a lot of interest in comparing how Raw and SmackDown do compared to Dynamite. So I have this box over here in the spreadsheet, which again you can get access to through Patreon, and this compares the most recent episode of Dynamite compared to Raw and SmackDown. So as you can see, this is NXT here, and NXT, this is not the most generous comparison at all for NXT because NXT has been on Sci-Fi, and of course AEW blows away NXT in all demos except for this, the closest. AEW has just a 32% margin in the non-P18 to 49 audience, which would include people over the age of 50, which NXT most often beat AEW Dynamite in head-to-head on Wednesday nights when they're running head-to-head. Raw and SmackDown, though, AEW did beat the most recent episode of SmackDown by 8% this week, which I can give you the exact numbers there. The exact number on that is 300,000 for AEW and 279,000 for SmackDown. And as we can see here, Raw is a little bit higher at 312,000. So the 18 to 49, AEW is 11% off of this Monday's Raw and 25% off on SmackDown. And are there any other interesting margins here? I guess female viewers 18 to 34, Raw just a 4% margin over Dynamite this week, and the back half, the old half, which I'm now a member of, the old half of the key demo of 18 to 49, that is P35 to 49. 7% margin there for Raw, and 4% margin for the male 35 to 49. So we see pretty often lately Dynamite beating Raw and or SmackDown as far as their most recent episodes, or their sort of the neighboring episode, whether it's before or after Dynamite. We're pretty often seeing it happen in this male 35 to 49 demo. And you can tell yourself a story, probably a variety of stories about why that might be happening. People who are 35 to 49. So take me, I'm 36, and in let's say if I'm a longtime wrestling fan who was a wrestling fan in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would have been in my teen years during the glory period of pro wrestling for WCW and WF, and now it's a lot of people who are teenagers and very young adults here, I think, who are in this demo, who are sort of the key audience, or the stereotypical audience for the Attitude Era and for the Monday Night Wars with WCW as well, probably. So I wanted to cycle through a line graph over time. This is just comparing the most recent episode of Dynamite to the most recent episode of these WWE shows. So I want to visualize that over a long period of time. And what we can do here, if I make this 100%, and hopefully everybody's seeing this well. I'm experimenting with the streaming here using OBS, and so we're going to see how this goes. I only intend for this to be, 15 to 30 minutes of ratings discussion, and if the stream quality is a problem, we will review it post-mortem and try to fix it. But this is M35 to 49. So I started this line graph off in November 2019, because October is kind of skewed from SmackDown having its debut, which really upsets the scale and makes this visual aid less useful. Dynamite has its highest viewership ever, 1.4 million viewers total for its debut episode. So what we can see here is this M18, or this M35 to 49, this sort of, you might call middle-aged male viewer. This is not something that was really happening in strong numbers, except for here. This is the December, where we're probably getting Winter is Coming, the episode after Winter is Coming, featuring the sort of first time Sting was advertised, and the Brody Lee Memorial episode. So not a lot of narrow comparisons here earlier on since AEW's debut, but now, and you can see this dip here, of course, where Dynamite was preempted to Friday nights and the one time to Saturday because of the NBA playoffs. And then here we're seeing some really strong overlap in the most recent weeks. So I just want to flip through the demos. I've not actually looked through this myself, but I just want to show you the magic of, in this case, Google Sheets. But I'm going to remove the M35 to 49 demo, and we'll put total viewership in, just to give ourselves a sort of general baseline of what we're looking at here. And this might take a second, because this Google Sheet, oh, there we go, not too long. And hopefully I'm sort of stress testing this stream to see how much it can handle. So this is a huge Google Sheet, so hopefully it's going okay. So this is total viewership, and as you can see, the gap between AEW and Raw and SmackDown is quite large, even still today. It is, if you drew a trend line over this, it is narrowing, right? And we can see the earlier days of the Wednesday Night Wars, where on occasion NXT would beat AEW head-to-head. And we see this is so April 13th, which is right about here. This is where the Wednesday Night Wars end, and NXT starts to go unopposed by NXT on Wednesday nights, and it really pulls away from NXT there. And then, of course, the preemptions, and we see this rising P2 plus. That's what we're looking at here is total viewership. So there's total viewership, a big margin for Raw and SmackDown. As you can see, SmackDown is almost always the most viewed wrestling program of the week. It beats Raw most of the time, with some rare exceptions. This would be early this year, this one red dot here that exceeds the blue dots. That is the Legends Night Raw, I think on January 4th, of course. It's an easy date to remember because it's Wrestle Kingdom Day. But most of the time, Smackdown is ahead. And I've removed the Christmas Day episode because that really upsets our scale too, because Smackdown had huge viewership on Christmas because it had an NFL game lead-in. So there's total viewership. I was hoping that these demos would appear here, but I forgot that as I change our values here with the pivot table, it's going to reset it to tell me it's an average of such and such thing. But I think you can see it over here, P2 plus. But anyway, let's change it out from P2 plus to, as Stephanie McMahon says, the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. I'll change that to average. We're up to 22 concurrent viewers. Okay, so here's P18 to 49. I guess I can just type this in, right? If I just type P18 to 49 in there, you can see it, maybe. Who knows? So here's 18 to 49, and as we can see, and this is, there we go. This is the demo that we know that TNT, Turner, and AEW value more than total viewership. This is the ad demo. This is the main demographic that advertisers buy commercials against. And there's one occasion, and again, I think this is the episode after Winter is Coming with the advertised interview of Sting. He appeared as a surprise here on Winter is Coming and then appeared advertised on the following episode. And this is the 1 week where AEW Dynamite, and I would have to look if it was actually in the same week. But anyway, on a neighboring, we can call it a neighboring episode, AEW Dynamite did exceed WWE Raw. This is December, so Raw would have been going against Monday Night Football for what it's worth. But in all other weeks, P18 to 49, and now I'm not going back to the very beginning. I guess I can. Is it different at the very beginning if we take away my date filter? Let's see. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a huge mess. Yeah, so I've gone all the way back to 2014 here, which is not exactly what I wanted to do. I don't know that that's visible. You can see here, I don't know if you can see this. This is this gray dot way up here in the Smackdown territory, almost in the Raw territory, is where 18 to 49 was for their debut episode. If I undo that, and if I change the date filter to, as this line graph goes crazy, let's see, if I change the date filter to October 1st, or even, I think there's an episode on October 1st for somebody, so let's call it September 30th, 2019. And if we make that the date filter, we will see a huge bump for the debut episode of SmackDown on Fox, which I think included The Rock, and a big bump for AEW, but it doesn't touch what Raw did in that same week. I wonder if we go 7 days back, does it touch it? Let's see, if we go to September 23rd. So Raw, remember, all this time has just been on the USA Network. No, it doesn't. Not even that makes a difference. It looks like we're still missing a day here, though. How about the 20? Let's just, I don't know. Let's go to September 1st, so we get a little bit of a trail behind. Yeah, even that debut episode for Dynamite then does not, in a neighboring week, beat Raw. We can see a really low number. This might have been a Christmas episode or something. It might have been a holiday where Raw gets pretty low, and it's low enough to the point where that debut episode did exceed it. But anyway, the 1849 demo, Raw and SmackDown are pretty far and away, and I'm going to reset this back to November 1st, are pretty far and away ahead of AEW Dynamite. Maybe things will change as time goes on, and as Raw this fall goes against Monday Night Football. Maybe AEW will have some additional stars soon debuting on their program, but we'll see. So that's 18 to 49. And we could spend all day here, and I don't know that it'll be that interesting to go through each one, but let's do a couple more. Let's look at P18 to 34. So the young adult audience, I think when AEW was about to debut, I wrote something about how I thought NXT and SmackDown would soon at least combined, and I think I was tempted to say maybe AEW alone would beat eventually Raw and SmackDown in this 18-34 demo, which I'll type in here, and it'll take a moment to appear. So you can see, this is again in December 2020, where AEW, let's say here, is above a neighboring week of Raw. Over here, probably November, is above the Raw that happened the Monday before it. So this has been the case that Raw, or that Dynamite has exceeded Raw in a couple neighboring weeks here, in the young half of 18-34. And I think what might be an even better way to look at this is I have this tab in here called WWE versus AEW. And I've got it color-coded. And let me go to OBS so I can see what everybody's seeing here. There we go. And I have it color-coded so you can see. It's probably, we'll make this really small because it's really about seeing the colors, maybe less about seeing the actual numbers. But you can see, so it's gray. So here we have it in the dark gray, almost black. This is AEW's ratings, and this is week by week number, comparing NXT's ratings to Dynamite, comparing Dynamite's ratings to Raw here in the red, and comparing SmackDown here in the blue. Each one of these W programs are being compared to Dynamite, and it's marked dark gray if Dynamite's rating is higher in that demo. And we're looking at the, whatever it is, 9 demos that I have. And it's marked gray if AEW Dynamite's viewership in that demo is bigger than the viewership for either NXT here, Raw here, or SmackDown here. And we can see all the times where any given demo for AEW exceeded that of the W programs. And we do have, so this would be the comparison here, this is an FS1 preemption for SmackDown. That's why we've got some gray blocks here covering SmackDown. But there have been a few times, and I guess we might as well, let's make this bigger so we can actually read some of what's on the screen. I don't know that you'll be able to read this, but I will be able to. So we've got back here in May 2020, male viewers 18-34, Dynamite beat Raw in the same week. And we have here, what demo is that? That is female viewers 18-34. Dynamite beat SmackDown. And we scroll, and we've got a few. It's mostly, let's see, it is another couple instances of female viewers 18-34. We've got one male viewers 18-34, and that means you've got total viewers 18-34. Here you've got, again, this is in the same week. Again, this is August 2020. So this must have been those summer months in 2020 when AEW was not running head-to-head with NXT because of preemptions that around the same time NXT and AEW were going through. I think as the playoffs, the NBA playoffs were being moved around because of the pandemic, and NHL playoffs as well in the case of NXT. But yeah, you can see some instances, and here again in October, there's a World Series preemption. So we've got a lot of gray blocks here where SmackDown went to FS1. Did they go to FS1 again in December? They must have. So there's those examples. And we see even here in, what week is this? This is November 18th. Dynamite beat, and then remember, this is still the Wednesday Night Wars, but yeah, Dynamite beat Raw in the same week in the 18-49 demo. And a couple other times here in December, which we were looking at before. So I think this is winter is coming here, early December, and the follow-up to winter is coming there. So that's 2020, and we scroll down, and there's this vast time here from, this is what through the winter and spring. This is where Raw is relieved going against Monday Night Football, and we're getting towards the WrestleMania season. There's not as much sports competition, and SmackDown's doing well to beating Dynamite in all demos, and with some exceptions later. Once here we get to April, after April 13th, the Wednesday Night Wars are over. AEW is no longer running head-to-head with another wrestling program in NXT. And we start to see, again, some instances. We don't see anything in here because in June, for most weeks in June, I think 4 out of the 5 weeks in June, I think it's from May 28th to maybe it's the 26th of June. That's where AEW was preempted to Friday at 10 and on one occasion, Saturday at 8. So AEW not exceeding Raw or SmackDown in any of those demos. So what we're seeing here is, I guess you could say, in some ways less impressive in the case of what we saw earlier back here in December. Where is it? I guess December 2020, where, especially in the case of Raw, this section of time here, this is late, this is mid-November, this is December 2nd, this is December 9th. Still going against NXT in those cases. So I think it gives you an idea that things just being equal as they are with the removal of competition head-to-head from NXT, that during football season, there's going to be some more demos, some more instances of demos, at least where Dynamite will be ahead. So there's that. I will take questions if anybody has some in a few minutes. And I just wanted to run through a couple things showing where SmackDown and Raw rank. As now that I've shown how great AEW is and how close they are to WWE, I wanted to show how highly Raw and SmackDown rank, despite their decline in viewership. I guess I could go back real quick. I just want to show the viewership decline, and then we'll look at the ranking, just to give people a visual example of how viewership has declined for both Raw and SmackDown. Mainly Raw, though, because Raw has been a more consistent example of data because it's been on the same network, same time slot for many years. So if we go to P2 Plus, and I want to do an average for each date, and I want to remove the date filter, which will only go back to late 2014. But there you can see, if you look at the red line here, you can see how that declines over time, right? And SmackDown's held up better, because SmackDown has moved around from Sci-Fi to USA Network, from Friday to Thursday to Tuesday, to having its own roster, to moving finally to Fox, to a broadcast network that has huge coverage, as big as coverage gets in the United States for TV. So there's that. You can see the sort of the pattern of decline over these last 7 years almost. There's that. So I want to let's look at first SmackDown's ranking. So I think ranking is really important to how these programs will be valued. Even though viewership is down, as everybody knows, all TV is down, all viewership is down, but a large part of what makes a program as valuable as these wrestling programs are is that Raw and SmackDown, and increasingly AEW Dynamite, are highly ranked among other programs on TV. And what I have here is SmackDown. This is against all broadcast programming for the last. So this is data that I scraped from Spoiler TV. And if this will be a challenge for the stream. If I clear this filter, which usually takes some labor on the part of my microprocessor. Oh yeah, not responding. Excel is not responding. We've moved from Excel. We're moved on to Excel. Encoding is overloaded. All right. So I think it's done doing what it had to do. So what we have here highlighted in blue is SmackDown. The instances of SmackDown, this is, if we pull over here, we've got, I think this might already be in chronological order. It is not. If I sort this in chronological order and maybe break the stream again, encoding is overloaded. We're rising to 13% CPU usage. But yeah, so this is going back to late September 2020. So I guess this is like the beginning of a TV season. Thanks to Spoiler TV for this data. This is just broadcast. So this is just ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and CW, I think, is in here as well. Yes, it is. So all the the episodes of SmackDown are highlighted in blue, 1 hour at a time. So I've got a line for each hour. And I've calculated roughly where they rank. It's basically a rank. It's not perfect, I think, but it's pretty close to what the rank should be. Yeah, it'll at least give us a good idea what the trends are. So this is going back to the fall of 2020. So that's about a year into SmackDown's run on Fox. I could get more data here, but this is a good chunk of data. So this is nearly a year's worth of data, right? Yes, because we're coming up on September 2021. So I think I happen to have in here 51 weeks or something like that, or 52 episodes of SmackDown in here, something like that. Anyway, maybe it's only, I don't know. So what I then did was I took these are all the SmackDown episodes, and I've figured the rank for each one, for both the rank on that night, on Friday, in prime time. So it's rank on Friday prime time against all other programs, just on broadcast, not on cable, but usually broadcast has the most viewed program just because of the coverage. And then I did a weekly rank also, so not just what the rank was among broadcast programs in prime time on that day, that night, but the rank versus all of that week's primetime broadcast programming. So what we see is SmackDown. So again, this is from September 2020 through the latest we have here is July 30th. And what we see, and I've gotten rid of the 9 o'clock rows here and just looking at the 8 o'clock rows. And what we see is it's ranked number one kind of most of the time. I should probably make this bigger so people can see it. So this is the column that I'm looking at here. And you see a lot of number ones, number twos, number fours. There aren't that many other programs to compete with. It's not like there's 50 programs to compete with. There's more like 10 or so. But there's a lot of number ones here. Some number twos, some number threes, some number fours. This is in 18 to 49. Total viewership P2 Plus, though, is a different story. We're much higher in the 10s, in the 7s, and the 8s, okay? And then, this is by week. We see a lot of 30s, some teens here, and then in total viewership, it's in the 60s, 70s, 50s. And just to visualize that, I've done this chart here, where you can see over time from September 2020, each week, SmackDown's weekly ranking among all other primetime broadcast programs, both in terms of in the green, 18 to 49, the key demo, the only thing that matters, and in terms of total viewership in the blue. So obviously they being SmackDown, ranks much more highly in 18 to 49. It delivers a younger audience. That's part of what makes SmackDown especially valuable. There's a lot of programs, especially on broadcast, that can deliver lots of older viewers, but it's the younger viewers that are harder for advertisers to get a hold of, at least on linear TV. And what we don't see here is a declining trend for SmackDown. This is, if I draw a trend line, in fact, just a linear trend line over this, it's actually going up over time. And if I draw a linear trend line over, that's the 18 to 49. If I draw a linear trend line over the P2 Plus, that's actually going up too. And I've reversed this order. So number one is at the top. You want this to be high rather than low. So there's that. SmackDown's rank, this is something that I've pointed out before, and I said I would put the data together to show that this is really happening. That SmackDown's rank, and we'll talk about Raw in a minute, but SmackDown's rank is not on the decline. Their viewership may be on the decline. Let's say it is, but their rank, among other programming, is not on the decline. And I think as long as Raw and SmackDown, even as they get less popular, perhaps, as long as they continue to be highly ranked among other programs that are what else is out there on TV, I think Raw and SmackDown will continue to be highly valued by networks, including Fox and NBC Universal. So let's look at Raw. If we go back to the big Google sheet, and I'm going to go to, we're going to create a chart live on the air. We're going to go over to the tab that I need to create this, and I'm going to insert a chart. magically I already have the necessary columns selected. So if I think I need to start with 4, let's see. So we're going to start this where we start to have the rank data, which is in, if we have both hours, starting in row 474. So I'm going to change this 1 to 474. I'm going to change this 1 to 474 because I don't want it right from the beginning. Oh, I don't need this. I need dates on the x-axis, and I need values, which are our ranks, on the y-axis. So that is a column chart, but let's instead see if I can. We'll have a line chart here that I'll just put dots on and take the lines away. Let's see here. Points 7, and the line thickness is 0. So that's a little bit easier to see. So basically, the higher this number is, the worse it is. The lower the rank is. So I wish I could turn this upside down, but Google Sheets is limited. The lower this number is, the better it is. The higher this number is, the worse it is, right? And we do see some rankings for Raw flying even into the 15 on January 11th, probably against impeachment coverage. We see this on November 2nd, undoubtedly against election coverage. And we even see this on June the 1st, maybe against a debate or something. But for the most part, a lot is being ranked. I don't want to say high because we're looking at this chart where we're upside down here. But a lot of these rankings are better than number 5. And if we put a trend line over this, what does that look like? Again, this is going all the way back to the fall of 2014. So I've put a linear trend line over that. I'm going to make it red so you can actually see it. And it is weakening a little bit. Maybe some of that is due to these outliers here against probably a lot of news coverage. And maybe COVID messed that up a bit for them. But we heard people saying throughout the early part of COVID that, well, you're the only live sports-like thing on TV. You'd think you'd be at a benefit because there's not anything else out there for people to watch that's live in sports. But there's Raw, maybe slipping a little bit, but I would watch that over time. I wonder if we change that to a moving average. And let's say this is by hour, so I don't know if it's exactly weekly data, but let's say a 10-period moving average, and that looks pretty consistent. So this stuff out here, some of this is outliers against news coverage. Some of it is, but this is not that alarming to me. This is not that concerning to me, even though viewership for Raw definitely is declining over time, and I think there's a real decrease in WWE's popularity. And I think there's going to be, as long as Vince McMahon is the head of creative, and I think AEW is going to be in an increasingly favorable position to grow its popularity as WWE's content turns people off and doesn't capture people's time and attention as much as it could. So there's that. If anyone has any questions, as there are still people watching me look at spreadsheets on YouTube, I will attempt to answer a few questions for a few minutes. How long have we been going here for? The clock says 33 minutes. I will scroll through the chat. Detlef asks, what are your expectations for where AEW Rampage will be during its first weeks and beyond that? Well, I'm tempted to pull out a spreadsheet that one Detlef himself has managed, and we'll see if this breaks the stream. If I go to viewership, and I do have the quarter hours in our quarter hour sheet, and again, this might slow down the stream for a minute. And sure, throw a few questions in there, and I don't want to keep myself or everybody else here all night. But a little while longer is good. Let's see. So if I go to this tab here on our AEW NXT quarter hour sheet, where I have a tab called Friday Query, where I've put together the quarters for hour 1 for the recent Friday Night Dynamite episodes. And we see that hour 1 averaged 277 in the key demo and averaged 562 total. So I think a little bit lower than that would I would say maybe 10% lower than that is where they live. So what does that really mean? That's if all things are equal to what they are now, meaning same set of stars and no newness factor, which is not going to be the case when Rampage debuts. But while Google, this is another massive Google sheet, so hopefully this is not breaking the stream. But there we go. So if I center this, maybe, if it will center. And I center this, actually, I should have just painted format. So if I paint this format, we should really be, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So, yeah. If I just multiply these two numbers by 90% each, and what we end up with is about 250,000 key demo, which is what in a rating, if you're more familiar with the key demo rating, I think you just divide that by this, and we should have a key demo rating here. So we're talking a 0.19 in the key demo. That's what that is the equivalent to. 0.19 the key demo, and about 506,000 total viewers. Of course, though, the first Rampage will probably be a lot more viewed than the episodes that come much later. Maybe by like 15% or 20%. And then you're going to have the following week which is the United Center show, which may include the debut of CM Punk in AEW, which I imagine will do a monster number. That's a number that's really hard to predict because it's Rampage. It's in not the Dynamite usual time slot without the built-in viewing. It'll be the second week. People will have watched that time slot once to whatever degree they watch it. What's going to be more viewed the week of the second Rampage or Dynamite, average over the course of the program? I don't know. It might be Rampage, which is a fairly smart thing to do when you're debuting a new show, to make it such a big deal on the second episode. And which I would imagine is, if people are happy with how the show goes, the viewers, then that should encourage viewership later. So other questions. Looking at trend lines, this is from Dirty's Hub. Looking at trend lines and taking things like a lack of Cena, Goldberg, and potentially The Rock, when do you anticipate Dynamite will start regularly outperforming Raw in 18 to 49? Oh, that is a question that I ask myself often, but I have not put a great deal of thought into trying to answer yet. And I think there's a lot of sort of unknown factors and sort of human factors that have a lot to do with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and when they start, if they do start to appear regularly on Dynamite. I think Dynamite is going to be somewhat cannibalized by Rampage. That may be invisible if Dynamite is helped and Rampage are both helped by the addition of new star power in the form of CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, and if that sort of increases the momentum that Dynamite has already built for itself by growing its viewership just over the last, 30 days or so, or month and a half. But sort of those things aside, if you set aside those factors, I think Dynamite and Rampage would cannibalize from each other a little bit by 10% or 5% or something like that, just because you're asking an AEW fan to watch an extra hour of AEW programming per week, and there's only so much time in the day for people to spend. When will they exceed, or will it happen? I predicted that it would happen sometime in this year, and it has not happened. I think that's what I sort of drew a trend line out that to show that maybe this is possible. The NFL season, I think there'll be a number of weeks. I think a good over-under is, let's take the NFL season from the second week of September to the last week of the regular season with Monday Night Football going against Raw. Does Dynamite beat Raw in half of those weeks in 18-49? Maybe half of them. But so much of it depends on what the programs are, how hot this product gets, and that gets more and more hard for me to predict. In terms of P2 Plus, the total viewership, that will take a much longer time if it ever happens for Dynamite to beat Raw or SmackDown in total viewership, unless there's just really a Stone Cold Steve Austin breakthrough, and I don't mean him being on AEW, but just a huge hot period. That's almost like one of the biggest peak boom periods for a wrestling company that we've seen in many years. Because WWE programs have a pretty big older audience that will fortify the total viewership number for a long time, at least. With the challenge coming back next week, do you see that taking a chunk out of AEW's audience? This is I really don't. I've heard of the challenge. I see it as a row in the rankings, and I see that it ranks number one often. It will probably have some effect on AEW, but there's a lot of viewership competition that all these wrestling programs have gone against at one time or another, especially sports programming competition. And AEW's done well against NBA playoffs, including the NBA Finals. All these programs have done fairly well against the Olympics. I know Paul Fontaine has an article arguing that the Olympics don't really affect wrestling viewership that much. So maybe they don't. Do you see 1.5 million viewers as a possibility for AEW? And if so, what do you see W doing to combat that? I think these early episodes where CM Punk may be appearing on Dynamite, I don't know, 1.5 is high. 1.4 is the debut episode. I don't know. It's something I should give more thought to. But again, on the other hand, it gets into really unpredictable sort of human emotion territory where how much are people going to care about CM Punk? I think they will care quite a bit, at least at first. How much is AEW? It depends on the booking and execution, right? Like, it depends on how much is AEW able to promote CM Punk well and get him to not just be a short-term effect, but a long-term effect for all of their business metrics. I'll take a couple more questions. What do I see WWE doing to combat that? I don't know what WWE has they can do. I mean, I don't. If you take them at their word, they're not worried about it and they're focused on themselves. Nick Khan said they're like a horse that's wearing blinders, and they're not in the wrestling business; they're in the media business. But I think that's largely a PR message to dismiss AEW. I would expect periodically these sort of short-term specials, like Legends specials that they did earlier this year, and other things that will have a short-term positive effect on ratings, but won't have a huge long-term positive effect on ratings. But being back on the road has helped them. But I don't see them doing a whole lot. I don't know what they could do to freak out that AEW is doing better viewership now than they used to do, or maybe getting closer to our viewership. What are they going to do? I don't know. I guess they could be more competitive for talent when the contracts for AEW talent come up, but we shall see. Next question. Have you ever noticed this is from Mike, have you ever noticed any quarter-to-quarter or week-over-week change in Dynamite as it relates to matches like Blood and Guts or the Nick Gage versus Jericho match? Have these matches had any effect? Not that I'm aware of. What we have here is, in the quarters, is 1849 and P2+. I know that some people have argued that the violence turns off certain demographics, perhaps women. I have not seen that in the data. There's definitely not a minute-by-minute effect in the case of the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match, but I know the argument would be that, well, it wouldn't make people tune out immediately. It would make people tune out next week and the weeks following that. I don't see. I think I've looked into this, and I could try to. Did I go away from the viewership spreadsheet? I think I have looked into this before, and I did not see sort of a female viewership decline that coincided with, in the following week or the following weeks with a violent match like the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match or the Nick Gage Chris Jericho match. It's something that I could look into and create a graph and say, well, does it look like it or not? Let's see if we can pull up the F18 to 49. If that is, if you think, well, stereotypically, maybe women don't like violence. Let's see. And we need to place this in time, right? So the F18 to 49. So the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match was sometime in March, right? I looked this up recently because I was doing the Google Trends and seeing when Britt Baker's numbers for web search were really high. Yeah. Let's see. So if I'm putting F18 to 49 into this pivot table, I'm going to want to do a date filter too, so this is a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to filter by condition. This is an Excel tutorial too, by the way. Multi-purpose video. Date is after, let's do the first of this year, right? Because you're asking me about two matches that happened in 2021, right? As we can see, the line chart update before our eyes. So if I'm going to Google Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa match date. That was somewhere around March 11th or March 19th. Let's see here. If I hover, will it show me the date? No. It looks like March 17th. So that is in here where? Roughly here. Yeah, okay, if we go back here, March 17th, you're at 98,000 F18 to 49. The following week, it's up 111,000. The following week, it's the same as it was for the Baker Rosa match. The following week, 120. And then the following week, we've got the first unopposed Dynamite. So I don't see any negative effect there. And what was the Jericho Gage match was just 2 weeks ago, right? So that was not last night, the 4th, but the week before that, which, let's just get the date here, July 28th. So, which would be this data point, right? And it looks essentially unchanged. Let's see here. Let's see if I can hover. 195 was last night, 195,000 in F18 to 49. And the week prior, almost identical, 196,000. So I don't see anything yet. I guess it could crater next week, but I don't see any trend there. Yeah. March 19th. Okay. Why do I have it in here as March 17th? I don't know. Was March 17th? We're going to look at a calendar now. March 17th was a Wednesday, and the 19th was a Friday. Okay. Blood and Guts was May 5th. Let's see. Blood and Guts. May 5th, 176,000. We do see a big dip here the following week. Then it goes back up a little bit. I would want to look at P18 to 49. Let's see here. Is that exclusive to F18 to 49, or disproportionate, I should say, to F18 to 49? again. So we'll put P18 to 49 in here. And we've actually got more viewers watching now than a moment ago. We've got 26. Feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel while we wait for the video to the line graph to load. So let's see here. Blood and Guts, according to Mike in the chat, was May 5th, which is right here. And there was a big drop in P18 to 49 as well. So, I mean, I could do the math and do the percentage difference, but that would take a lot of time and require some dead air. But maybe I'll do that later. But I think that's all for now. Thanks for listening. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. I might do these every so often because I notice there is a huge amount of interest in the Dynamite number, and that gets a lot of numbers on Twitter and whatnot. And so maybe we'll do things like this and just do a live chat about TV ratings in the future. If you like it, let me know. You can subscribe to the Patreon to get access to this huge viewership spreadsheet that you can poke around yourself. It is very big, and it goes all the way back to 2014, as you were able to see earlier. You can get that at patreon.com/Wrestlenomics for just $5 a month. Plus, you get my ratings reports and things like the Google Trends report that just came out yesterday, and a lot of other things. You can follow me at Wrestlenomics and at Brandon Thurston, and we'll have a podcast again this weekend in your podcast app. Just search for Wrestlenomics. I'll talk to you next time.